Good afternoon. We are back. I want to go over our lab. So this is lab number one, which is our batch processing lab. We're going to be, the purpose of this is to go into Adobe Bridge, and through Adobe Bridge, we're going to open some files. We're going to take those files, we're going to process them through Adobe Bridge. The process is going to be adding metadata information through a metadata template. So you're going to create the templates, apply that template to the files. After you apply that template to the files, then you're going to go through a batch process. Previous video, I showed you how to do the metadata template, and I showed you how to add that metadata template to the group of files. So we got that part done. So now this video is going to show you about the batch process. So batch processing essentially is taking a bunch of these files, and besides the metadata that you're adding to them, you want to do a few different things. So one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to show you this thing called batch rename. What it does is it allows you to take a group of pictures, copy them from wherever they are, wherever you have them from originally, give them new names, and copy them to a whole nother location. So it's going to be a whole new folder that you're going to create where they're going to be where these pictures are going to be inside of. Once that those pictures are there, then you're going to process the pictures again with a batch process, where you're going to get them to a particular size where the width or the height of those pictures are all going to match. It's going to be one or the other, and I'll explain it as we do it, as I've shown it to you here, what's going to happen. And you're going to save them twice. You're going to save them one for one set. They're going to save it again for a different set based on the instructions in the lab. So the lab itself, I want to show you, in your Blackboard here, what it's going to look like. As a matter of fact, well, I can't show it to you through the student preview because it's not there. Yeah, in the lab itself, when you open it up, the lab brief, the lab report, and this Omega prep images, that won't be there. Everything is encased now inside of lab one that I got here. So I had to update it to make sure that it was showing everything correctly. It gives you the assignment, the description of the assignment in the lab, and then it gives you the lab brief and the lab report you'll fill out when you're done with the lab, as well as the downloadable files that you'll download. So the downloadable files, just so you are aware, and I know that I've told you this at least once, when you click on any of the links to download, it will take you to Dropbox. And through Dropbox, you will have the ability to download the files. So something as big as this zip file, it'll give you a button right here to download. But anything else, you may not get like a button like this. So all the way up here to the top and the right, there'll be a button there. It looks like a little arrow pointing to a line. That's your download button. Whenever you click on any of the links that I give you for files or guides or anything, whatever it is, if you want to download it, click on the link, takes you to this Dropbox interface. You don't have to do anything with the sign up or anything like that. If you don't have a Dropbox account, don't worry about that. That's not important. All you have to do is look for that little arrow with the line arrow pointing down to the line. Click onto that, and it'll take you through the process of downloading the file that you need to download. And once you download it, with this being a zip file, you download it, you unzip it, and once you unzip it, you're ready to use it within the lab. So now the brief of the labs and the projects will look like this. So this is the brief for that for lab one. It will give you an explanation of what you're doing and why you're doing it. It will give you instructions and directions on what to do and how to submit it. And then after the submissions and the instructions, it will, and I got to add on to this because I'm realizing that I did not give you the directions on the metadata template. I have to give you that. So I got to put that as one extra file. So you'll have that. It'll be there once you when it's ready, when it's ready for you to actually use this. But it'll give you the guidelines and submission options. And then there's also a rubric that you can compare what you've done where you can grade yourself. So you have the ability to self-grade yourself through your own point, through the point system here, and see what you get. And this is what I'm going to be grading your submissions off of too. And then, of how it's going to go. And this is going to be what your grade is going to be for the labs. The labs do get added to your final grade. So yeah, I got to expand this out a little bit more with the instructions to give you the one thing I forgot to do in this is add in the instructions on what I want you to add to the metadata template. So I got to put that in there. So I will do that before you actually get to this lab. So don't worry about it. It will be there by the time you hear me talking about this. This is the report. So in the lab report is just asking information for you to fill in. This is a Microsoft Word document. So if you don't feel like writing this out, just go into Microsoft Word, open this up in Word. Google Docs will open this as well. And just type in the information. When you type in the information, these lines are just underscores. They're just a bunch of lines. So they're just going to, as you type information, it's going to be continuing on. If you don't know how to do this, where you replace these lines, let me show you how to do that. Erase all this that I just did. On your keyboards, Mac and Windows, if you have a full size keyboard on your laptop or your computer, you'll have these buttons that'll say home, in, page up, page down, and insert. The insert button, if you press that insert button, it will let you now type and replace the line. If you can't do that because you don't have that capability of replacing the line with what you insert in, then you could just simply highlight what's there for that line and just type. It'll just replace. And you'll type in all your information. Just go ahead and do that and replace what was there with your new information. Just do that with no problems and replace things. That's all. And I'm just making this reset itself because if I don't do that, I will forget, and that will be there when you see it. Okay, so you could just replace these lines. It's pretty easy. Just select the whole line. You just click to select the whole line and just retype, with whatever you want to say. It could be more than 3 lines. I just added 3 lines for you to, put in some information there. But put in as much information as you feel that you need to say. There's no amount that you have to put in. I'm not requiring that out of you. But what I am trying to get out of you is to express yourself and to talk about things. I speak on this usually in my in-person classes. There's a thing called a stand-up that you have to do whenever you're standing in front of your peers at a job or in front of your shareholders or your bosses or your managers, whoever their titles are, and you have to defend your work. So it's a stand-up to defend your work. Now, what does that mean? That means that you're going to be standing in front of people and talking about why you created this design. Why did I create it this way? What was the purpose of it? Why did I decide to do it this way? And why is it significant and why does it work? A lot of times, especially in today's world, you're going to be working in what they call agile environments. And agile environments is going to be this type of things happening. They'll give you an assignment. You do the assignment, and then later on in the week or the next week or what have you, whenever the assignment is done, you're going to turn it in. And turning it in is meaning you're going to stand up in front of your peers and talk about it. And then they're going to give you a review. They're going to talk about what's good, what's bad, what they think could be improved or changed. And that's what this is. So instead of you standing up in front of the class and talking about your work, I want you to write it down. Get used to writing it down. So that way you can express out why you did this way. What was the purpose of you doing it? And that way it can show that you retain what we're talking about here. So use this, utilize this, express yourself, talk about everything that you need to talk about in here. And once you do that, you're turning this in along with your files as per the brief is there. And it will explain to you everything that you need to do there and how it needs to go. All right. Let's go through the batch rename. So again, in the lab, the idea is to apply the metadata template with the metadata information. We already went through that. Now, put in the brief exactly some of exactly the things that I'm looking for of you to put into the brief and then and into the metadata template. And there's going to be spaces where you add your own stuff, like your own name and all that other stuff. Then the batch rename process. We're going to take our pictures, select them all together, and then under your tools menu, and select them all together again. Control A or Command A for select all. Under your tools menu, the first thing is this batch rename option. So what batch rename does is that after you've applied the metadata template to the pictures, you can rename and relocate these pictures. So I'm going to use batch rename, and a lot of times you're doing this at least once because the original photos you don't want to touch. You want to leave the original photos intact, unmolested, unchanged, so that way you can archive, put them in your long-term storage device, whatever that is, and they will stay there forever. These that you're doing the batch rename for, these are usually the files that you're actually going to be working on in Photoshop to make a collage, to modify with the color correction and photo retouching, something of that nature. So you're going to modify these, but you want to keep the originals intact. So you're going to do this batch rename to change them and rename them and move them somewhere else. So first part, destination folder, you're going to copy to another folder. You're going to hit browse, and most of the times the easiest place to put this is your desktop. So if you navigate yourself to your desktop or wherever you want to put these files, you're going to navigate there. You're going to create a new folder, and the lab will tell you what you want to name this folder, but you're going to give this folder a name. I'm just going to call it Roxanne so I can find it. So that's the name of the model. Create that folder, and this folder is where I'm going to put these files when I rename them. So I'm going to hit choose. What I want to make sure of is the path right next to browse. Make sure that that path is still pointing to the name of your folder. If it's still pointing to desktop at the end or documents at the end, that means you didn't choose your folder. Right? You may have made the folder, but you didn't choose your folder as the endpoint of where these files are going. Make sure you do that. If you miss that, just hit choose again. Go find the folder. You probably don't have to make it again. Just open the folder by double clicking on it if you need to, so that way it's open, and then hit that final choose or select or whatever that button will say to you. And just make sure at the end of the path that it has the name of your folder. All right, so that's number one. So that's step one. Step two is the new file name. So when it comes to this new file name, you're at least going to have one line here. There's a plus sign at the end of that line that'll let you make multiple entries for the file name. Don't go crazy and get too complicated because you can if you want to, but you want to keep things as simple as possible with the naming. And let's talk about naming convention here for a second. I am going to open up a folder. No, I'm not. I'm going to open up my notes panel here for a second. And I'm going to create myself a new note here. I forgot that fast. Boom, create a new note. I need to probably change the font on this, so give me a second. Show fonts. There I go. I'm working on multiple screens, so sometimes things jump from one place to another. I just want to make sure the text is big enough for you to see what I'm about to do. All right, so if I wanted to create a file that was called Roxanne Shante.jpg, right? I'm going to show you something here. That's did that wrong, Roxana. Okay, one more. Just now looking at now. All right. Each one of these names are different. Um, Spelling is the same, Roxanne and Shantae, right? But one has this first one here has a space between the two names. This one has the names all, mashed together with just the first letter is capitalized. This one, all the words are mashed together with the first letter of each word capitalized. And this one has an underscore between the first and second word. All of these are three separate files. Now, most of the times when you're saving files, creating folders, you're naming it however you want to name it. Some programs will prevent you from doing things like putting spaces between words. Like instead of the space, there'll be an underscore that they'll insert in there or a dash that they'll insert in. Because by naming convention and computer standards, computer programming standards, um, putting a space between a word doesn't register right. So while you're doing like a file, for instance, hold on, file, hit the space bar, and then name. While you're typing that in, right? What you're actually getting is this file, the percent sign, a number 20, and then name. So that's actually what's showing up as far as the code, as far as the computer is concerned. That's what shows up, that percent 20 right there. Now, what the hell is that? Well, there is a thing in the world of typography, which you may or may not have been introduced to yet. In typography, there's a thing called an M space, which is just to write it down, EM space. An M space is basically the space that a lowercase letter m takes up. So whatever font that you're using, whatever, it doesn't matter what the font is that you initially use, the lowercase letter m, whatever space that takes up, um, that's an M space. You also have an N space. You also have an X space, which again is like the lowercase letter X and lowercase letter N. I don't know why that is doing that little thing. I don't know why the X did that either. Why is the X so tiny? I don't know why the X got that tiny. But anyway, you have an M space, an N space, an X space, so EN, EM, EX. Those spaces are a designation. If you notice that they're, each one of them are a different sizing. The N versus the M space is a difference there. And the X space is about the same width as the N space in the font, usually. But why am I talking about all this, Maurice? Well, quite simple. Um, when you're typing in the space bar, it's 20%, which is what the percent 20 there is. It's 20% of the M space. That's what that is. So that's what you're getting from there. So you're getting that 20% of an M space, created when you hit the space bar. Now, why is that important? Well, some computers don't read that M space there, that 20% M space, because they see this percent 20 there. So when you're trying to link to the name, you're trying to tell it to link to this, and that it's actually trying to find that, and the two things don't work, and it breaks. So instead of this first option up here with the name, with the spaces, you want to go with one of these other three choices there. With mashing all the words together, or put using like an underscore in between. So, in between the names. Some computers will allow you to do a dash. I don't like doing the dashes because dashes, pluses, slashes, hash marks, ampersands, which is the little and symbol, all that stuff is read as mathematical functions in some programming languages. So I don't use it. The underscore is just read as an underscore. It's not for anything else but being an underscore. So if you want, this fourth choice right here is a good idea for filing for naming conventions. But I like this third one here where I'm mashing the word together, mashing the two words or two or multiple words together, and the first character of each new word is capitalized. That's called camel humps. I like that option too. So I'll go back and forth between the two of them. Pick one, use it. Pick two, use it, but make sure you're consistent. That's the main thing, is being consistent with using it. So back over here, when it comes to this naming, for your file name, you're going to have a couple of options on how to put in your file name, or like what you want to use as an entry. You have text, where the naming convention, putting in your own names and your own words, how you want it to go. You also have a couple of them you're going to skip over, like new extension allows you to add another file extension. You don't want to do that because it won't be read properly. Current file name, that's using the current file name of the file. You're trying to change it to something new. So why are you trying to use the current file name? That doesn't make sense. Um, the preserved file name. So that's in the metadata. Maybe the name was changed before, and there's a preserved file name in the XMP metadata. You could pull from that if it's there, but that's only if it's there. A sequence number or a sequence letter, those are good to use because you could choose one or the other. Usually don't do both, but you can have a number system. Like I like using a sequence number, so I can start, like the first one is going to be 01 or 001, with leading zeros, and then it goes to however many that I need to process. You can do a letter, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that sort of thing. You can put in the date and time. The date and time is going to come through as a series of numbers. It may not make sense because it's not divided out. Like, how the dates go like month and then the date and then the year with slashes in between it or dashes. You're not going to get it like that. It's just going to be a string of numbers. So that's what you're going to end up getting with the date and time. Metadata, you could pick any one of the metadata entries that you want. Like some people will pick like the title option, the title entry or the headline entry, but you got to make sure that information is there in the pictures. So that's why you put the metadata template on where you've added that stuff in. The name of the folder that these pictures are coming out of. String substitution is weird to do. I would not use that at all because you would have to put in a string substitution is basically programming language for a pattern of letters or numbers that you want to put in, either randomly or in a particular sequence. And you have to create that. And that becomes difficult if you're not versed into writing that code. So the best choice is text as the first thing. And then after that text, you can start doing things like the sequence number or sequence letter, maybe the date and time. Any one of those would work. So for me, I would start off with the text and then put in whatever I want to have as the name. So Roxanne, I could do Roxanne underscore Shantae, and then I'm going to add one more underscore because after this name pops up, I'm going to hit this plus sign here to add another entry into the naming. And this is where I'm going to put in the sequence number. So for the sequence number, I can choose what I want the numbers to start with. The default is usually 1 because it's my first time doing this. But let's say I did this batch rename on one group of pictures of her, and then I got another set of pictures, then I could probably change that sequence number so that way it picks up where the old one left off. So if I made 50 in this first one, then the next one I would start at 51. So that's why you have this option of choosing the number you want to start. Then it's going to ask you how many digits. Now, here's the guideline that I use for the number of digits piece here. I'm looking at the bottom of this interface, and it shows me how many files that will be processed. So it's 43 files to be processed. That's 2 digits. I like to have a leading 0, meaning so the last one will be 043. So that would be 3 digits, 0, the 4, and the 3. So that's 3 digits. So that's why I put 3 digits here. Also, another thing with this, if I choose it to be, say, 1 digit, what will happen, I'll get 0 through 9 or 1 through 9, which is all 1 digit. And then when I get to 10, the 10th one, that's 2 digits. So what ends up happening is that it just remakes 1 through 9 again. So I'll have only 9 photos made because it only made 9 photos in this batch process. And it just saves over and over and over again. So having it to at least the same number of digits that you have down here, the files will be processed, or one over is usually the best way to go. So put 3 digits there. So if I had 500 photos, I would have 4 digits. If I had 1,000 photos, that's 4 digits. I would have 5, and so forth and so on, just to make sure I got a number there. That's really all I need to do to keep it simple. It's just, whatever text I want to add at the beginning, and then a sequence number that's going to go afterward. That's good. Again, you don't want to go too complicated with this. There's no need for that. And if you keep it simple, it makes it easy to find, stuff later on when you want to search for it and such. Under options here, this is number 3. So number 1 was the destination. Number 2 was the file name, keeping it simple. Number 3 is your options, where preserve the current file name and the metadata, and the compatibility for Windows, Unix, and Mac. You want to make sure all these things are checked on. The preserve file name. This is just taking the original file name, whatever it is, and add it as the preserved file name in the metadata. So this way, you could search for the original name, but you can also search for the changed name too to find this in Bridge or any other type of search engine that allows to read that information. The compatibility is just to make sure that this metadata information is compatible with all the different platforms. There's Unix platforms, which is what Windows and Mac computers are based off of anyway. And then there's the Windows platform and the Mac platform specifically. So just making sure that all comes in. The preview down here lets you see what the current versus the new file name and how that's going to be. You look at that to make sure that this is kind of how you want it to be. And then you see how many files are going to be processed, which is what I showed you before. You hit the rename button, and it's going to start this process. So it's going to make all those files in that folder. So I hit rename, it processes. You're really not going to see this happening. But if you get to your desktop, which if you go over here to favorites, desktop is already going to be there. And if I go look for Roxanne and all this madness that I've created over my time, Roxanne, there it is. There's my pictures with the new name, name with the naming convention put in place, and all of that in place for all of the pictures. So batch rename, that part's done. Now, that's part 1 of the lab. Rename the pictures, put them into a whole new folder. Once you've done that, there's one more batch process that we're going to do. You're going to do this one twice per the lab. So I want to show it to you one time. We're just going to do this twice. So here's the scenario. You can have all these pictures, and all these pictures are different sizes. The pictures that I'm going to be giving you, they're all a bunch of different sizes. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that all the pictures are oriented in the same direction. For instance, this group of pictures are already oriented in the proper direction, but I just want to show you. Let me expand this out. The pictures that you're going to get, some of them are going to be portrait and some of them are going to be landscape. So in their orientation. So I want to show you these. Let me turn them first like they're supposed to be, because these two, and there was like 1 or 2 more I thought was supposed to be turned. And that one was supposed to be turned on its side. All right. So what's supposed to happen? What you need to do is you need to make sure that all the pictures are in the same orientation. So if they're in portrait, you need to make them landscape. If they're landscape, you need to make them portrait. Just make them all into the same orientation. So that's simply doing what I just did, is selecting the pictures, and you can select them one at a time. Or if you hold down your control key or your command key on your keyboard, you can select them as a group, because they will be separate from each other. So you select all the landscape ones, for instance, like I got here. And there's 2 buttons up here at the top to the left that are rotation buttons. They allow you to rotate the pictures clockwise or counterclockwise in whatever direction. It does not matter which the direction is, as long as you click on one of them, so that way it rotates them in the direction. So you want to rotate them, the selected pictures, into one direction or another, so that way everything is all portrait or everything is all landscape. It does not matter which direction, portrait or landscape. It just matters that they're all oriented the same. Because this new feature that I'm going to show you, it's part of Photoshop's features, but you activate it through Bridge. It allows you to take all these pictures, process them all the same. So either the width or the height of them all will end up being the same size. And then you can export them out into a JPEG file, a TIFF file, or a Photoshop PSD file. So what I'm going to have you do in the lab is export out two versions of these same groups of files with two different sizes. So one set's going to be one size, one set's going to be another size, with all the metadata and information that you put on here, with the new file names that you put on there. So let me show you how this works. It's selecting everything once you got them all oriented correctly, going to your tools menu, going down here to where it says Photoshop under tools, and you're going to see image processor. Now, under this section here in the tools menu, you have automated tasks, basically things that you can have applied to a bunch of pictures all at one time through Adobe Bridge. So you select the pictures in Bridge, and then you can go and do this batch process for all these pictures all at once. So the ones that I know that we're going to use through this course, the image processor, which I'm going to show you right now, and then later photo merge and merge to HDR Pro. I'm going to show you those as well in another class. They allow you to take multiple files, process them all at once the same way. So what way? Well, it depends on which one of these you pick. The one we're picking here is called image processor. It is an old thing. It is an old system. So what will happen is that Photoshop, when you choose that image processor, Photoshop is going to open. If Photoshop's not open already, it's going to open. If you already have Photoshop open, you may have this message right here. It's telling you that, hey, Photoshop is currently busy. You got something going on with it. You need to stop what you're doing, shut down the file, meaning save it, close it, and then you can go back and try this thing again. So if you get this message, you can hit OK, and you may have to run the process again. If you know that Photoshop is just open with nothing in it, once you see that message, just make sure Photoshop is not hidden or collapsed. Like mine was hidden at the moment. So I need just to go back to Bridge here and do it again. It's just one of the little features that's within Bridge. The first time you do that, if Photoshop is open already, it goes through that process and gives you that message, and then you just do it again and it'll get back. Now, you'll get this dialog box to pop open when Photoshop opens up. That has these 4 steps in it. Step number 1, where are the files that need to be selected? They're already selected in Bridge. It will tell you process files from Bridge only, and it tells you the number of them that's going to be processed. So you don't have to worry about that. You have this option of opening the files. Don't choose this option. Open first image to apply settings. There's no need. It'll just slow your computer down like immensely. So don't do that. Where do you want number 2? Where do you want the files that are going to be processed? Where do you want them to be saved? Save in same location. Just choose that save in same location. There's no need to change it to anything else. File type, like what file types do you want to save this as? So you have the 3 options of a JPEG, a PSD, or a TIFF file. You don't need all 3. All you need is the JPEG file. You're going to convert it, the color profile to sRGB, because we're creating these for a website. So we're going to create thumbnail pictures and we're going to create the big pictures. So the thumbnails need to only be about 150 pixels in width or height. So this is how the process is going to go. The image quality, which is what this quality here is, you're going to set the quality of them, and that'll be listed in there. The quality of them is going to be set to a number, let's say 8. For these one that's 150 pixels, you're going to do 150 for the width and the height. You're doing it for both the width and the height because the program, this automated program was going to change the largest size to that. So if the width is the largest number versus the height, then the height is going to be at 150. No, I'll take that back. I always got to remember this properly. It's going to take the smallest number. So if the width is smaller than the height, then all of them will be 150 pixels wide. And then the height will proportionally scale. If the height is the smaller number, then everything will be 150 pixels tall, and then the width will be proportional. That's how that goes. So it goes after the smallest number between the width and the height of the picture. It's not going to make them all 150 pixels square because there's some rectangular pictures in there. You don't want that to happen. That'll squish it. So if you put a different number in the width or the height, then it's going to squish and stretch the picture. You put the same number in the width and height, it's going to look for the smallest side and make the smallest side to that size that you put in, and then the other side is going to proportionally scale down or up as it needs to. So that takes care of number 3, just choosing JPEG, choose the width and the height according to the directions, and save and take that. Then we're going down to number 4. Under number 4, under copyright info, you're going to put in your copyright information, whatever you want to make that to be. It'll be added to the metadata. The main thing is this all rights reserved. You want to make sure you add that in there with the current year, 2025, like that. And again, you'll be told what to put in there. So this is going to be, I'll put it, it'll look like this. Your company name, something like that, and then a space, 2025, another space, and then all rights reserved in all caps. Doing this will reserve your copyright. And this is an old trick. It's kind of deprecated, meaning it's not used that much anymore, but it still kind of stands up. If you never copywritten any of your work and you want to make sure that you can preserve your copyright options for later, do that to the pictures. And that will let you, keep your copyrights, your trademarks, your patents, whatever it is that you're going to have. This include ICC profile doesn't need to be checked on. In the lab directions, you're going to get a screenshot for each one of the things that you need to add in here, of what you need to do. So for each one, you're going to get a screenshot that's going to show you what the size is, what to add in, what to set up. So that way you're a little more comfortable, in the lab what you need to do. This is just me showing this to you, what's going to happen. So once you do set all this up, you hit the run button, and what will happen, if your computer has the capability, it will show you each picture. It'll open up each individual picture and start processing it. It opens it, processes it, closes it, and so forth and so on. And it just does that all the way through until it's finished. When it is finished, you're not going to get any type of message telling you that it's done. It's just going to be done, and you'll see your home page back again. If your computer is a slow one, this could tend to be a thing that crashes your computer. So hopefully it won't crash. If you know your computer's slow, before you do this batch processing, shut down everything. Shut down your internet browser, stop using Word or whatever other programs that you're using. Sometimes you may even have to restart the whole entire computer if you haven't done that in a little while. Just restart the whole entire computer so that way it clears out any system memory that was used up by those other programs so it can be dedicated to just doing this process. And then you can run through this process by just opening up Bridge, then open Photoshop, and then just let it run. And when it's finished, it's finished, however long it takes. When you go back to Adobe Bridge to take a look at what happened, you will see a folder. That folder will usually have JPEG there as a name, but you can, through Bridge, you can either do a long click or sometimes right click and you'll see rename. So that way you can rename it based on what, again, the lab will tell you what to name it to. You could double click on that folder and all the pictures you will be able to see. And when you click on the picture, right there at the top or in the file properties, either place, you'll see what the width and the height is set to. And you'll see that your width and your height has been set properly. So it looked like the height was set to 150 on each of these. Yep. It looked for the largest number, not the smallest number. I'm sorry, I said that wrong earlier. Is looking for the largest number and putting that to the height, or putting that to the number you put in, and then the smaller side is just going to proportionally scale. So all of these are 150 pixels in the height, and then the width just automatically scales to whatever it needs to keep it proportional. So I got to remember that. As many times as I've instructed and talked about this, I always get that switched around. I'm thinking it's one way and then I say it's a different way. So that's what you're going to end up doing for the lab. So you do this and you create this folder, and then what you're going to end up turning in besides your lab report is you're going to be turning in this folder. So you're going to turn in this folder, not the entire production folder of the new names. You're just going to be turning in these these two different folders, the thumbnails, and then I think the other one is large. I think it's small and large or something like that within the lab. You're just going to take those two folders, take the lab report, put it all together as a zip file, submit that zip file to me. And send that. And you could send it to me either as no, you have to submit it. You could submit it as a link because the files are going to be too big. So if you have a Dropbox folder, a Google Drive folder to put that zip file into, do that and then send me the link so that way I can download it. Or if you do not have that, just upload it into Blackboard. I will see that it's there. I will be able to download it there, and I'll probably end up having to delete it just to save space for later projects after I've graded it and everything. But once the lab is done, I will look at the lab, I will grade them, and once I put the grade up, then the other class will be the next lecture will be available for you to get. So the labs usually are going to take I give you a week to do the lab, so that way you have that entire time to turn it in. So our class, we meet on Tuesday mornings, and then Tuesday mornings and Tuesday afternoons for the Photoshop. So you have until that next Sunday at midnight in which to turn it in. If you wait until midnight on Sunday to turn it in, your grade's going to come late, so you're not going to get the information on time. You're not going to get the next lecture available on time because you got to wait till I grade it. And if you do it last second like that, I got to get through the rest of my week before I could probably grade the next thing. So you'll end up being behind. So don't do that to yourself. Get the work done as quickly as you can. Submit it as fast as you can. Get the work done and then submit it. Try to have it done by Friday. If you need some place in which to do the lab, we have open lab on Fridays from 9 o'clock to 2 p.m., from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Show up there and get the work done there. Turn it in right then and there, and it's done. Or if you need to have a place to turn it in from right there, and it'll be done. And then I can grade you and go from there. So make that happen, folks. I think that's it with this. That's the lab. That part's done. There's nothing else to that. And let's move to our lab. So once the lab is done, then lecture 3 will be available. Once you've submitted the lab and I've graded it, then you'll have lecture 3 in color theory available. The color theory lecture is going to go over how colors work and why colors work in its basic form. I'm going to give you a couple of resources of places to look up the information about that you would need for the assessment. And I'll give you some files that you will use for the assessment to do your research on, and we'll discuss and talk about that in class with most of this stuff. And we're also going to be going into Photoshop and Bridge to make sure the colors are set up properly for what you need for a project. So we got to make sure that the computer system understands your monitor and your printer device for what color is capable for those devices. So that way you have consistency with color. And then how to make colors within the program of Photoshop. Like how do you create the green or the orange or whatever that you need to make, and how to go and find those colors to set those up. So that's what we're going to be doing in that color theory class here. So thanks for being here, and I will talk to you on a later date. Peace.